These last couple of months, I've spoken to a lot of people who suffered effects from what you would call bad management. So I want to, in this video, talk a little bit of what I've been taught are the two most important things that you can do as a manager. So stay tuned. All right, so before we can get into any of this, we need to have a little bit of a discussion about group dynamics. These apply to any group, regardless if you're the manager or a member of a team. If you know these, then you can help the group grow and become a better group and actually creating a better work environment for everyone around you. There are many models on this subject, but the one that I've been taught and the one that I sort of follow mostly is the one that Susan Wieland developed. She wrote the book called Creating Effective Teams, links in the description below. So according to Susan Wieland's model, there are 4 stages in any group development. It's forming, it's storming, then it's norming, and then performing. And then one stage that is really important, especially if you have a temporary group, but also as a group, adds or loses new members, is the exit or like the dissolvement of the group. So let's take a look at these different stages from the perspective of a new person coming into a group that's where the group has already existed for a while, because this is probably the most common thing that you will have happen as a manager. It's seldom that you're in a scenario where you're creating teams and then dissolving them on a regular pace. That exists definitely, but these rules and like stages or ways of thinking, they still apply. But we will look at this from the perspective of an existing group taking on a new member. So let's look at stage 1. Stage 1 is forming. This new person is coming in. She wants to be a part of the group, right? Everyone wants to be a part of the winning team. So in the forming, she's looking for, how do I adapt to this group? How do I fit in? What's my role? What do they want of me? And you as a leader can, in this stage, really help build trust or help integrate the person by showing the rest of the team that you are welcoming. You can make sure that the person has been introduced beforehand, so everyone's like, oh, cool, you're Susan, welcome, and just make the person feel welcome. It's also very important in this stage to make sure that the person has clear tasks and especially clear ways of winning so that the person can win early. Let's go into stage 2. So stage 2 is storming. This new person has now been in the group for a while and sort of started to get a hang of things. This is sort of where the person is starting to express, but I know that the group wants this, but I'm this person. So it's more so the guard's coming down and you're starting to see the person interacting with the group for the first time. And this is why it's called storming, because there will be conflict here. And your role as a manager in this stage is try to get through this as fast as possible. And it's not just the new person coming in that needs to conform to the group, it's the group also conforming to the new member. So as you're molding this, all parties are sort of figuring out, how are we going to work with each other once, the pleasant, let's get to know each other phase is over. It's, oh, okay, apparently it's really upsetting to add milk to the coffee, or whatever it could be. Everyone has their quirks. So it's the group trying to figure these things out, and that's why this stage is called storming. And then we get to stage 3, where stage 3 is called norming. So now everyone sort of knows each other, you know how to get the work done, you go through every day and you just, there's not a lot of hiccups, or you're not really, things are working good, right? This is like a normal stage for most jobs. What you really want to get to is stage 4, performing. So in stage 4, everyone knows what parts they're playing, but they also know the other parts, that the other people are playing. So you really have this closely knit team that help each other out. So they know, for example, oh shit, we need to have a presentation on Thursday. Well, here are some bullet points that need to be on the presentation, even though I'm not holding that presentation. then, oh, we should show this on Thursday, for example. It's a great way. A group that's in stage 4 it's a group where everyone's sort of playing to each member's strong suits and also helping each other out to protect for each other from like their bad suits. So, for example, if someone knows that someone isn't great at Excel, but that person is great at Excel, then these two help each other out, like both by teaching the other one Excel, but also covering and making sure that the Excel task gets done, right? Perhaps not the best example, but you get the gist of it. So knowing these stages is really important for you as a leader, but also as a member of a team, because this is where you can help out with the group dynamics. If you know you're in storming, then if everyone knows that, then you can have a discussion about it, and like you can really talk about, okay, cool, how do we make sure that we fit these pieces together that are the unique pieces of being a human and like the unique combination that your team really is. So it can really be beneficial to have this model and talk about it. But there's one stage that I haven't mentioned yet that is the most important stage, or at least I was told by my leadership coaches that introduced me to this model that this is the most important stage. And now, years later, and especially with these last months with hindsight, I can definitely agree that it's the most important stage, and that is the exit stage or the termination stage. But more on that in a minute, because first we're going to take a look at forming. Well, imagine that you're really excited to join a company. So this is an example of one of the things that I have been talking with different people, but more or less with the same problem over these last months. So imagine that you're joining a company. You're really excited. You finally got that job. It seems to be a perfect fit. It was a long interview period where you were tested and you had to jump through all these hoops. You have a termination period where you're sort of winding down from your old job. And then you're really looking forward to joining this new company and like joining the team. It seems to be super exciting. Like usually people are really excited to join a new position because it's exciting, it's something new, and especially if they've sort of fought a little bit for it, they won, and they're hoping to be a part of a winning team. And then all of a sudden you come there and no one knows your name. You've never really been introduced to anyone. About a weekend, sure, there's some pleasantries, like you talk to your closest coworkers, but no one in the office knows you. You're being assigned a task that you can finish in 2 hours, but that's also the only task you've been assigned that week. And then you sort of have to wait until someone has the time to show you the ropes or to help you, or so has the time to give you another task. It's not a good start. So this is an example of where you as a manager, you have the biggest impact. This is where a new member is coming in. They're looking for leadership. They're looking for someone to show them around, someone to take initiative, someone to show them that they are in fact welcomed and that they are a part of this new team, and they want to include people. And this is perhaps a very trivial part, but it's also where you're really setting the first impression, so to speak, of how this group behaves when you raise. So let's take a look at a good example, one that mirrors more what I'm trying to achieve with my teams when you come in. So what I try to do is I try to meet the person where they're at. I know they're coming in, I know they're excited. It's especially good if you already have like a computer or a phone or whatever, if all of that is there. Perhaps not necessarily set up for a developer, especially setting up the environment is quite important that you've actually done it yourself, because then you know how to set up the environment. Because as developers, we crash our environments regularly, so it's good that you have a hang of it, how to get back together, get back on track. But it should still be a simple and nice experience. So I try to make sure that we set up for a developer, we set up the environment as soon as possible. If there's any admin, we can do that while our setup scripts are running. And in the meantime, I try to make sure that the person is introduced to the rest of the company. Everyone gets a chance to say hello and they know who they are. And we also make sure that they get someone who's not part of my team to talk about the company or like sit down with them and introduce the company from a non-technical perspective. But because that helps breach the barrier between talking to some of the other teams, right? And then this is what I usually try to aim for being done before lunch, right? Before lunch, with an ideal setup, you will have a computer setup with a development environment that's capable of helping people out. And you've got during that time, you also got an introduction to the people around you and how this company works and what we're trying to achieve. And then hopefully you have lunch with your new coworkers and your new teammates, or maybe just someone else from the company, but don't dine alone on your first day. That should be a thing at least, anyway. And then in the afternoon, the whole purpose is to create an early win. I had a friend who recently hired someone and they managed to fix a bug and push it to production in the first day. That's the goal. The person that comes in wants to have an early victory, and it really shows. Taking in this other person will save time over time. We will invest time in getting this person up to speed, but showing that it's easy to have an early win really helps boost the confidence of the new player, new team member coming into your team. So always try to strive for that early win, that early success. So a good forming stage, there are 3 points that I sort of want to push on. 1, prepare. Make sure that the person has been introduced to the rest of the company. The rest of the company know they're there. Hopefully the hardware that they need is already in place. There's a desk for the person that you come in. If there's no desk, make sure that you have planned time to rearrange the desk so there will be a desk. Could be a fun activity because it's, teamwork in rearranging an office as well. The other one is early win. Strive to have that early commit, that early investment, that give the new person the feeling that they're coming in and they're helping the team as soon as possible. That help make sure that they have the confidence to keep pushing and working on it. And then structure. Be very, very clear in the beginning of how you want things to be done. For example, if you want test-driven development, be just very clear that we're doing test-driven development. Maybe the first bug that you've solved together is using TDD. Make sure there are clear instructions of what do we expect of you, how do you work in the office, what are the office hours, how does it work from working from home, all of that. As much structure, the more structure you have in this stage, the easier it is to make sure that this person is onboarded and can sort of perform. And this is really important because a lot of teams, especially in software development, sort of don't like structure. But structure is about creating the playing field for our team to work together. So you can't just go and do anything you want, because you, as a team player, you sort of have to constrict, but then innovate on the playing field that you're on. So having structure is not necessarily a bad thing. I know some people say it's a good thing. So I'm just advocating for those who might oppose a good structure. But more on structure later. I hope to show a little bit more of how it is to be onboarded and maybe a little bit of guide of how we set things up in a later video. There's plenty more that you can do in the forming session. So please, if you have ideas or if you have something that you feel is really, really good when you bring in a team member, leave a comment below, and that way we can have a little bit of discussion of how do we actually make good forming of teams, and how do we make sure that we get people on board as fast as possible, because that's the win for everyone. You don't want to have an expensive person sitting around not being able to contribute, and everyone wants to contribute. So let's try to look at this from a little bit of an agile perspective. And I'm saying agile, what I really mean is continuous improvement, or Kaizen if you want to be fancy about it. And what you really want to make sure that if you want to be a good leader, the only way for you to actually become better in this stage is to have new people come in and then work on it. And this can be quite difficult in this stage, because you are, as a leader, you won't really receive negative feedback. Because a lot of people coming into a new position, they don't want to really say something to upset someone. And feedback is really essential for you to become better as a leader or a manager. What you can do is ask for it. You also need to know that the person coming in might not give you the feedback as candid as you like, because you haven't really built that trust yet. It's a new person coming into the team. So of course you can ask for it anonymously, but there's still a thing. Do you really trust an anonymous form from a company? I don't. What you should do is look for things that went wrong and think about them. Reflect on, okay, how did this go? How did the rest, maybe ask the rest of the group, how do you guys think to go? Because with the rest of the group, you've already established that trust. They will tell you, hey, I thought you were really mean when you said that. You should not meet new people saying something X, Y, Z. Or like, that's really good if you have that kind of trust in your team. Or you need to figure out other ways to get feedback. But asking for feedback as a manager is really important. It's you who need to take the initiative to sort of learn how you can do things better. Because it's very seldom that you will just have someone give it to you. An experienced coworker who also knows a little about group dynamics will give you good feedback or better feedback. Again, please remember that a new member will still perhaps not give you the most critical feedback that you can receive. Another suggestion that you can do is practice. Practice, practice, practice. And a good way or a cheap way to keep working with your forming sessions is having trainees come in regularly, because it's a good way for you to see how long does it take to onboard a new developer, how can we minimize that time effort. It's also a great way for you to give your team members the chance to sort of work on leadership skills themselves and help them instruct if you help them instruct other trainees. That's a really good way for you to grow your people in your team and have a continuous stream of potential new hires. That's not a bad thing. All right, well, also think back onto when you last joined a team. What did you like? What did you think was a nice way of being introduced to a new team, or like getting shown the ropes of how they work? Remember those, write those down, and make sure that you have I want to replicate this, and maybe I don't want to replicate this, because we always have some things that we don't like. So reflection on your own experience can also help you develop a better forming and onboarding experience. And again, to re-emphasize, what you're doing in this stage is that you're introducing a new member to the team. And this is a very crucial moment for the team that you can actually form how that interaction and how that will be with the rest of the team and how the team will work going forward. And that lays the foundation for the storming phase. But this is again a different video. All right, we're coming to the end of this video, and what better way is there to talk about endings? Recently, I spent a lot of time cleaning up a bad ending, and this is also one of the things of why I wanted to make this video. I was told by my leadership coaches when I was just becoming a new manager, or first-time manager, that the exit phase was the most important phase. That has just been proven to me again and again, that it's really, really important to handle a good exit. Because the person leaving the team has formed personal ties with the other people in their team and in adjacent teams. And everyone will sort of look to you as a leader. How are exits handled in this group or in this company? And this is sort of an area where you can build trust, and it's also an area where you can lose trust. Because if people see people leaving as being punished, then they will stay very quiet about leaving until it's too late for you to fix anything that person might leave. And the person leaving might be someone that you want to keep on your team. I know there's probably an archaic setting call where it's like no one likes a quitter, and it can become like it's easy to fall into a sentiment where you're feeling let down by the person leaving, or that the person leaving is doing a bad thing. But I can tell you that if you have good enough people on your team, then they will they will get other offers. It's actually a sign that they are good if they get other offers. It's also a sign of trust if they tell you that they're considering another offer, because that allows you the opportunity to sort of change that. And then there are things that change. The groups change over time. Life circumstances change. There might be incidents like personal to a person that makes it hard for the person to want to stay in this job, or maybe they just want new experiences. And what you really need to do here is, together with the person that is leaving, you need to have sort of a narrative. If the person has decided that that person wants to leave, then anything you will do to prolong that person staying will cost you time and money. Let's go with an example. Say you have a really good developer on your team that has another offer and wants to quit. And the offer is not in monetary compensation. That's not the reason for the person leaving. The reason for the person leaving is they want to try out something new. If you manage to get that person to stay for monetary reasons, then there's a disconnect between why that person is staying and what that person really wants to do. It means you're going to lose that person within 6 months, or roughly. It means that person will have one foot out the door and you will be paying that person even more. Another scenario could be that the person wants to leave because they are discontent. If that person, especially if they're discontent, stays on for longer, that discontent will spread because that person has personal ties to people around, in your team and around it. And that will cause, that it's good that they have the personal connections, but that also means that the discontent can spread. And being nice and recognizing that this person does not want to be here anymore, then the right thing to do is to help that person have a clean and nice exit, even if the relationship for some reason is sour. So a really good manager is someone that always, you can call them up and you can talk to them afterward and like, hi, how's it going? And hopefully it's, we're always in a situation where life's changing and like, having that trust in your manager that it's okay to do a different job, that also means that you can sort of navigate the exit in a trustworthy way that builds trust with the rest of the team. Just to conclude, or just to summarize this exit stage conversation, here are 2 tips that I think are 2 things to consider when you're handling an exit. And that is, one, it is what it is. The person wants to leave. If it's someone you want to keep, it might just make sense to accept that that person wants to leave. I've had people come back a year later say, hey, I want to come back. Can I join your company again? And that everything has been fine. They already know how to work there. So that's a really good scenario or outcome. And this is where you're sort of setting that foundation. And the second thing is you and the person leaving needs to together work out the narrative. If the person feels that they have not had their story told, then their story will be told, but it will be told in a scenario where it will actually not, it will reduce the trust that you have that your group has to you. And at the same time, in the other way, you also want to reach a point where you're exiting with a way where you both say, thank you for this run, it's been nice. All right, so I don't really want to end on sour notes, but having the discussion about exits in the end seemed poetically correct. So let's just end with a nice conclusion anyway. The two most important parts where you can build trust as a manager, the two most important stages where you can build trust as a manager in group dynamics, according to Susan Wieland's model, is one, in the forming of the group, where you have the best ability to actually form the group's trust, or like form the group. Secondly, in the exit. If people are leaving, this is where you really show what you're worth in terms of trust. These are the two where you sort of need to step up as a leader and take charge and take initiative. In the other parts, of course, in conflict or like in the storming stage, yes, but that's another video. So regardless if you're a team leader or not, or just a team member, please have a think about how new people are introduced into your teams, or have a think about how a good exit should be handled when people are leaving. It's more or less, if you're nice to each other, you will have a better experience at work, because you're setting a norm in a culture where people are nice to each other. And people work better in nice environments, especially when it comes to software development. All right, so if you like this video, please hit the like button. If you like to hear more, please subscribe. If you have any comments, ideas, or suggestions of how you can work with group dynamics, especially in these two stages, please leave a comment below and let's have a good discussion about that. I also have a newsletter. That's where you can sponsor this content if you want. If people like it, I will make more content. It's also a way where you directly get information about when I produce content. So, I don't know. Please join that if you want to. Have a nice day.